I have some young plants like these shard and collard plants that need more room, but have not yet developed roots below the level of the Oasis foam cubes. So it occurred to me that it would be good to have some kind of intermediate nursery system that I could use to house these plants while they develop root systems out beyond the cubes. I have been able to put these outside without roots going down the bottom, and what I do is I use a sprayer to go around every day and wet down the cube to keep the plant going while it hopefully develops roots down into the reservoir of the Kratky system outside. But meanwhile, I found some things in my junk box basically that I decided to put to work for this purpose. So a while ago I had bought a set of 3 or 4 of these Glad containers for the kitchen. They're, I think, 2 quarts or so, 3 quarts, maybe close to a gallon. And I've previously used these to grow some things in the soil, but I think these are, rather than sitting around, may as well put them to use. And here is a container from some Madeleine cookies that I got at Costco. And this is also a good size for this kind of operation. Now, the material I'm using on this is basically a piece of tempered masonite. It was actually a piece of wainscoting left over from some kitchen work that we did. So what I'm going to do with this is make a set of holes in the masonite to accommodate some cups. So what I did, I just laid this out and made this maybe a 1/4 inch bigger on each side. And then to find the approximate condition of the cup, I just set the cup down like this and dragged it down until it was pretty much even. Came back and measured this distance, and it's about 3.5 inches from here to here. I'd thought about doing one in the middle and changed my mind, but I did put a hole in here which I'm going to use to make a 1-inch hole for an access port, and I had recently bought a 1-inch spade bit for that purpose. I'm just going to put a bar clamp on this, hold this firmly in place while I work on it. My normal practice is to drill a 1/8 inch pilot hole before I do the actual hole saw. That way it's easier to get it centered. So a hole saw is, to my mind, a pretty dangerous tool. You could rip up your hand pretty badly if you handle things incorrectly. So my normal way of getting the block out is just to take the bit out, take a screwdriver, push it down, get it out of there. Okay. So all the other holes will be drilled essentially the same way. So this is what the finished setup looks like. I think containers like this cost like $5 for 3 or something like that, so they're not very expensive. This was a scrap. I cut it to make 4 holes with an access port, and from one of the other ones I have these round circles which I can use as a cover for the access port. Here are 2 more examples of things that can be recycled for use as Kratky containers. This is a container that I get my biscotti in from Costco. This is quite deep. This is like 9 inches deep, so this would house some bigger plants. I'll probably put some kale in there. I have some kale that's growing in a shallow tray outside now. I may just transfer some of those. And here's something else that was apparently used to cover muffins. This container, and as well as this container, these are pretty heavy plastic. If you get your hands on one of these, it's really a waste to not make further use of those. So these are things to watch out for in your kitchen. Now, in terms of making these boards, you can see this one has been marked up on the one side, which it has to have happen in order to get the work done. But what I would suggest doing for aesthetics is that mark it up on this one side here, drill pilot holes for all of the holes you're going to have eventually, and then on this side you'll have another nice clean side that you can use, which you might paint or varnish or just leave to weather, which is what I'm going to do here. So this is where I ended up with painting these recycled containers, which is, I had this can of green paint that I used for the back fence, and I just put 2 coats of that paint on these plastic containers, makes them kind of aesthetic. It's not perfect coverage, but it will certainly reduce the amount of light significantly and thus reduce the growth of algae. So here's the finished product on this particular thing. Now, when I took these, this was Greek basil, took these out of the little 6-pack, I found that they had really nice root-bound structures here. So mainly what I did is washed off the soil at the bottom here to let these roots hang down. And then I will take my little dipstick and my little funnel with the hose on it, and I will fill this up to probably a little bit higher than the mark at the beginning, but then once I feel like they've gotten established, I will lower the water level to the mark on the dipstick.